Ja, und ich bin's wieder, Kizunai Haran, hier mit meinem Let's Play von Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. Und wir stecken mitten bei der Mood Matrix zu der Aussage von Kosmos. Und jetzt wollen wir doch mal ein bisschen zurückgehen. Vergleichen wir mal dieses Häppchen mit einem anderen. Detective Arm appeared from the elevator side door. Super mega überrascht. Und jetzt? Sie schießt auf ihn und die Überraschung geht runter. Was denn da passiert? Director Cosmos, why were you so surprised when Detective Arm found you and again when she fired? Isn't that a bit unnatural? Sadly, even great men such as myself have ordinary human feelings. Our bodies are bound by the forces of gravity and emotions. Even a great man such as myself experiences surprise on accusation. Yes, I'm sure you do. But my real point is not the fact that you were surprised, but rather what you were surprised by. Pardon me? First, you were surprised when Detective Arm found you in the lounge. And just after that, you were, of course, again surprised when he shot at you. But considering what you were surprised about, a strange phenomenon occurs here. Director Cosmos, what is strange about your surprised reaction is the fact that you were... Dass mehr überrascht war, als sie aufgetaucht war, als dass sie auf ihn geschossen hat. Sure, you were surprised when Detective Arm shot at you, but the surprise you felt when she found you in the lounge was much greater. The fact that you were more surprised by simply being found than by being shot at suggests to me that you were conflicted about whatever it was you were doing there. The enemy has acquired a new weapon. Commence operation, hide under your desk und rette die Fischstäbchen. Please tell me I finally sunk this battleship. 30%, noch ein bisschen. Boss, I'm getting less discord now. That must mean he really is hiding something about that launchpad door. And whatever he's hiding most likely has something to do with the killer's escape. I wonder what it could be. If he was doing something suspicious around that door, maybe we can spot some change between before he came to the room and after. Detective Fulbright gave us a photo taken after the crime. Let's run a comparison. Let's see. This is footage of the door before Director Cosmos arrived. And this is how the door looked after the director entered the lounge. Hey, look at that! There is a change. Something's definitely different. Director Cosmos! What is it? What have you two been up to over there? Finding the answer to what you were doing when Detective Arm found you, that's what. And that answer lies clearly in this footage. All we have to do is compare it to the photo that was taken during the investigation. Don't be ridiculous! If you really do have an answer, you'd have pointed out already. He's asking for it. This is what changed directly after the incident. Das wäre... Gucken wir uns doch nochmal hier Dings an. Hier. Dieser schöne Knopf. The answer is this knob. No! Please take a look at this footage.
Let's see.
Take a look at the knob next to the launchpad door. As you can see, it's horizontal.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
However, when we investigated the scene of the crime yesterday, the knob was vertical.
And what does that mean?
It means that sometime between before the director arrived and after, someone turned this knob. After the scene was discovered, you were the only one who could have turned the knob. Come on now, Director Cosmos. Let's hear what you have to say. What were you trying to do by turning that knob by the door?
Yeah, fine. I admit it. You're right. I did turn that knob. That knob is a safety lock meant to keep the launchpad in place. I was afraid there would be more explosions, so I wanted to move the launchpad away.
You wanted to do what? Hey, didn't Punko tell us something about how they prepare for launch? She said that once the launchpad's fully assembled, it's moved to the launch site. But the safety lock in a boarding launch has to be disengaged first. I guess that clears up what that knob is for. Oh, so if the killer escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, maybe they were transported along with the Launchpad to the launch site. I don't think so. The Launchpad 1 corridor was filled with smoke. I don't think they could escape through that door. A corridor. So then, where did the killer escape to? I guess there are still some things we have to uncover. Director Cosmos, I request that you tell us about moving the launchpad in more detail.
Fine. But listen carefully, for I'm about to give history-making testimony.
Ja, ist gut, Opa.
I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. I feared there might be more explosions, so I had to cut the launch pad loose. Surely the only escape the killer had was through launch pad 1. But that area was a sea of smoke. Confound it! Where on earth could they have gone?
Ja. Tja, dann wollen wir doch mal gucken. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. Aha. Er hatte also keine Wahl. Dann stimmt aber wieder was nicht. Diesmal ist es der Happy Marker. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. You make it sound like you were reluctant to do so. And yet, when you did it, you felt some joy as you were very pleased with yourself.
How do you do it? How do you know everything as you were there?
Pretty impressive, isn't it? This is the power of analytical psychology. So, care to explain why you felt joy when you disengaged the safety lock? When I think back to the facts we've discovered up to this point, I have to believe that you were trying to fulfill some hidden agenda.
How do you know about that too?
Because I'm more or less a pro at guessing.
But you have no proof that I had a hidden agenda. And even if I did, I would never, ever tell you, so there! I know they say people regress as they grow older, but you, sir, take the cake. And how could you doubt a man with such great intensity, intelligence, and integrity? Outfischstäbchen!
Silence.
You, a man of integrity, don't make me laugh.
Prosecutor Blackwell? What came over him all of a sudden?
You've spouted nothing but falsity since you stepped up the stand. You're not the kind of man that will be glorified in the annals of history. Not for greatness anyway. Unless you consider the greatest barefaced liar in honor.
Liar! His words bite harder than his blade.
You moved Launchpad 1 after the explosions? My, how naive you are. You fail to realize how even the facts themselves have betrayed you.
You know, just a thought, but modern English can be your friend.
And here's a thought for you, immediately following the bomb. Launchpad 1 was on a boarding launch 1 site. The police confirmed this on scene.
What? Liar!
So that means the director didn't move the launch pad? Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar for the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and war games to his heart's content.
Liar! But it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. Ah!
You're sure it must went somewhere? We just might find out? Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or are you not man enough to boy?
Talk about hitting below the belt. Youngest these days. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after it came to the launch. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Ah! Wait a minute. Maybe I have it all backwards. What if the director turned the knob not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be?
What are you blathering about?
What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident? And then, after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot? All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back. And it would be right where the police found it. Ah! My train is home! You made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. Was what I said really that off base?
It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the launch when our astral wonders made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film.
Oh, right.
So to reiterate,
Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy.
Get a grip, Mr. Wright, and focus. We know the launch pad must have been moved. But our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction to each other. Well, maybe the two astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something. On second thought, that's too far-fetched even for me. Never actually boarded a rocket? Hey, wait a minute! Maybe, just maybe. Huh? Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you that the two astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area but instead went into another place? And what if when the director moved launch pad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you say then?
Cut the eccentric bull or I'll cut you.
Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once! I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor. Let me explain. Director Cosmos' reason for moving Launchpad 1 was, es mit einem anderen Ort zu tauschen. Because he wanted to switch it with some other place. I'm sorry, but did you say switch it? But what could he possibly have switched the launchpad with? Oh, you'd be surprised, Your Honor. All it takes is a little thinking outside the box, and the answer becomes clear as day. This is what was switched with Launchpad 1. Und das wäre... Ups. Das Space Museum.
Launchpad 1 was switched with the Space Museum?
In the past, the Space Museum used to be Launchpad 2. It has all the same features as Launchpad 1 and can even be moved to the launch site. Meaning, the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can also be switched with each other. You can't mean! The rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the Space Museum. What? Balderdash! Jawoll! And yet, it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistency. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched place! That's right, and with the two switched like this. The astronauts entered the Space Museum from boarding Launch 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from boarding Launch 2. And set the bomb on the rocket. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from boarding Launch 2. Welcome, welcome! The Space Museum is open to the public every day of the year from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Exactly. Anyone could pass through the door to the Space Museum. There's no fingerprint recognition system on that door. In other words, with the two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted the bomb. Gah! After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into boarding Launch 1 and waited there, concealed, in order to kill Mr. Terran and when the two astronauts emerged from the Space Museum. We call what Miss Blackwell, Mr. Starbuck and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who we can suppose, after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched the two launch pads back. Without realizing, the killer was inside the Space Museum. The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway.
Right, Dono. I see you know how to handle a sword and handled it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff.
I'm a seasoned warrior who can cut down many a prosecutor.
Silence.
But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword.
That's right, you have no proof I switched the launch pads. Somebody needs a better anger management console. If the launch pad really were switched, there might be a record of it somewhere. At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other. So the corridor beyond the door should be the one that belongs to the Space Museum. Let's see. It's an image of the Launchpad 1 corridor. Do you see anything different when we compare it to the security footage? Huh? That number on the floor! Well, what do you know? It looks like we have proof after all, Prosecutor Blackwell.
And if this is just another bluff?
Oh, don't worry. It's all right here. Right in this footage. Proof that beyond this door is the corridor to the Space Museum. Very well then! Answer this for me if you would. What in this footage proves that the corridor belongs to the Space Museum? Wie, wenn man gerade geguckt hat, der Launchpad 1 Korridor hatte eine 1 unten auf dem Boden. Hier ist eine 2. There's a 1 on the floor on the Launchpad 1 corridor. But take a look at the floor of the corridor in the security footage. Do you see the number on the floor behind the astronauts? It doesn't look like a 1, does it? That's because what you see is actually part of a 2. What? Why is it a 2 and not a 1? That's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum. No! And so that means the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke. That's right, because the explosion didn't occur in the Space Museum. The explosion occurred in Launchpad 1, on the side opposite the Space Museum. And now that we know the 2 astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Mr. Tarrant, carrying Mr. Starbuck, simply took the elevator from the upper level down to the middle level. Just incredible! The 2 launch pads were actually switched! But you think someone would notice an event of this magnitude? Everyone was down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were swapped back. There's no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. 0%! Geschafft! Und Info-Update? Wunderschön! Bye bye! No more lies, Director Cosmos! It's high time! You told us the truth!
My honor, my glory! Everything is slipping away! Time to grab my ultimate weapon! The electric engine! Ignition! What? It's gone haywire! Ah! I won't stop! Ah! My stars! My glory! Ah! 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 war, wie ich finde, der geilste Breakdown im gesamten Spiel. I see we managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm.
Director Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads?
I admit it's true. I switched Launchpad 1 for the Space Museum. Oh, it is good to hear words I can believe for a change.
Before you do, Your Honor, 2 things. First, we don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was unaware of his surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would realize the instant he stepped into the Space Museum that it had been switched with Launchpad 1. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why did Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? As for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the 2 launch pads to begin with.
Please, I can't. I exercise my right to remain silent.
Och nee, komm.
But I will say, my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in that blast.
The director is terrified. He must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why. Probably not a good time to try to pry it out of him, huh?
Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my Fischstäbchen stars? Without my badge of rank, I'm nothing. I don't see why not! Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars! It appears the possibility of a culprit other than the defendant has presented itself! Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say?
I don't get it.
Don't get it? What don't you get?
Director, why did you do all that? From the beginning, you never meant for the launch to get ahead, did you? You tricked us! Mr. Starbuck!
Starbuck, my boy. My boy! I'm sorry, I can't tell you the reason why. But I had to do it to protect the Space Center.
Director! Will I ever get the chance to go into space again?
Yes, of course. I won't rest until it happens. I will get you into space again, my boy.
Then the dream is still alive.
Silence.
Blackwell, was ist jetzt schon wieder?
You're not going into space, Starbuck, but prison. I won't have it any other way.
Why are you so hung up on him?
Yes, I accept that the launch pads really were switched. And if there were a third person at the scene, I suppose they could have escaped. But I have yet to see proof of this third person's escape via the Space Museum.
Oh, that's a good point!
He's right. I don't have any proof.
Starbuck, you will spill everything you know.
What? Me? me! Oh!
Where did you get those bombs? Tell me now. If you don't, my blade shall feast on your blood.
If I'm going to die, I want to die in space! I have to do something!
Solomon Starbuck, prepare yourself.
No, you know violence isn't the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell.
That annoying cheerful laugh. It can be none other than...
Champion of righteousness, Bobby Fulbright here. In justice we trust. Detective Fulbright? Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. I hope I'm not too late. I don't believe I had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady cross the street. And then I had to break up a cat fight. I'll tell you, justice sure is a full-time job. Was it a fight between cats, or... Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't a culprit, and I came to make sure that justice is served. I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Right. I always thought you were a bit touched in the head. But have you finally succumbed?
Nope, but it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment.
What evidence?
Come to think of it, he did say something about finding us some evidence.
Thanks, you two. I feel a lot better now that I've been able to get that off my chest. I'm going to work extra hard to find that perfect piece of evidence for you.
I didn't think he was serious, though.
So, what is it, detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent? It is indeed. Look at this. What's this? A lighter? That's right, a lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. The Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up. It has the victim, Clyde Tarrant's blood, along with the killer's fingerprints on it. What? Ah! Alter! Bobby? Danke! Order! Detective Fulbright, can I assume that the fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet! Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent!
This is it! This is just what I needed!
Oh Gott! Danke dir! Your Honor! This is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim! Explain yourself, Mr. Wright! With pleasure, Your Honor. Recall where this letter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Mr. Tarrant, they escaped with lighter in hand into the Space Museum, where they dropped it. The switching of the two launch pads occurred. Then finally the killer left through boarding launch 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in boarding launch 1 after the murder. A fact that Director Cosmos has testified to. Therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't have possibly been the one to drop the lighter there.
Silence.
But the defendant had free reign to the area until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter in the Space Museum during that span of time?
Objection!
You'd like that to be true, wouldn't you? But Director Cosmos testified that right after he saw the mysterious figure with the lighter, he went into the launch and found the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, Mr. Starbuck wouldn't have had the time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could only have been dropped by the real killer. Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on this lighter. I think you understand what this means, don't you? This piece of evidence unequivocally proves that Mr. Starbuck wasn't the culprit. Ah! This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claims. As for the remote switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, we can assume it was planted by the killer on the unconscious Mr. Starbuck.
No, there must be some mistake.
Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow...
Wright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow?
Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent. In light of the fact that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. A few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover.
Ja, nicht nur was den Fall angeht, sondern was hat jetzt gerade zu bedeuten? Wo hat sich Fulbright da gerade verhaspelt und hätte das preisgegeben?
But for now, this court's find defendant Solomon Starbuck not guilty. Yeah, thumbs up, bro.
Jetzt brauchen wir nur einen neuen Mandanten. Yes, we did it, Mr. Wright. Looks like we pulled it off somehow, huh? With some help from Detective Fulbright.
Mr. Wright, Miss Sykes, thank you. And please thank Apollo for me too. You are all the best.
Oh, I wish we could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now.
Yeah, me too.
That's going to have to wait.
No, what a verdict has been reached! I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
That? Simon, du Spast! It's too late to object, isn't it?
It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong.
Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict?
Fulbright, what were the results of the fingerprint analysis for the lighter?
Huh? The results? Ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha! Oh, well, I was in a hurry, you see, and then there was that cat fight, and well, I kinda got carried away when I heard the prince weren't Mr. Starbuck, so...
You have yet to read it.
Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prince belonged to?
Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints
Und jetzt kommt das Chaos.
were found to belong to Athena Sykes. So says the report.
What? What?
Huh?
Me?
Order, I say! Order! Miss Sykes! Tell me you have an explanation for this! We just finished proving that this lighter could only belong to the killer! So finding your prints on it can only lead us to one grave conclusion!
I don't know how they got on there, but I know I'm not the culprit! This can't be happening! We built up our argument piece by piece, and I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty. So how could it have led to this? Nine.
What have I done? Please forgive me, I'm sorry! Order! Order! Detective Fulbright, stop your crying!
What in the world is happening here? It's like the world's gone mad!
Order! Order! I will have order!
Sieh, wann du spast! Confusion spiraled into utter chaos. After all we'd found for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We had stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of a twisted darkness. Und ihr seht das gerade richtig. Die Episode endet mit einem fucking Cliffhanger! Sodass man den Rest in der nächsten Episode spielen muss. Wo ich das gesehen muss, dachte ich mir nur, ah! Wie kann man uns das nur antun? Alter, das ist mega gemein. Es ist nicht wirklich ein satisfying End, weil es ein fucking Cliffhanger ist und der Mordfall an sich immer noch nicht geklärt ist und stattdessen jetzt super großes Chaos entstanden ist. Aber Tatsache ist und bleibt Episode 4, The Cosmic Turnabout, abgeschlossen. Und das heißt, damit beschäftigen wir uns mit der 5. und damit auch der letzten Episode dieses Spiels. Turnabout for Tomorrow. Die Episode, mit der alles ein Ende hat und alle Fragen nun endgültig geklärt werden. Wer hat nun Clay umgebracht? Warum wird Athena verdächtigt? Was hat es mit diesem Morgen auf sich, wovon Fulbright und Blackwell erzählt haben? Und noch viel, viel mehr. Macht euch auf was gefasst. Egal ob positiv oder negativ, Bewertung immer gern gesehen. Das war's von meinerseits und wir sehen uns das nächste Mal wieder. Sehr geil.